Hey Tony, it's Friday, and I know it's a little dark in here, but it's 7:30 p.m., and I just got home about a half hour ago. It was a long day, to say the least, but first off, to answer your question of the week, Tony, the craziest death I ever had was the one I mentioned, in which I was playing a knight who had just made this new set of armor. But what happened is our chaotic evil ranger, who was a bit of a jokester, decided to kick me in the armor. So my character, being, a dumb brute, went charging at him. And one other person in our party was a gun mage who wanted to shoot me in the leg just to stop me. Instead, he rolled max damage and triple critted, which means he ended up doing... I had about 50 health. He did about 150 health to me because it was crazy. Because he, not only did he do max damage on his weapon, he did max damage on both of the spells with it. Both spells had about a 5% chance of working. He rolled each one perfectly. So I got hit, like I said, with probably about 100 some damage and was killed instantly because I got shot in the leg. But that's that one. And now for the video that I actually thought about doing months ago. Back when Taylor and I first got Mass Effect Andromeda. And I had newfound vigor to make this video because I just finished up The Witcher. And so, Tony, you know that RPGs are probably my favorite games. RPGs and strategy games are kind of my two go-tos. So this video here is my inability to make good decisions in video games. I'm only going to do about one decision a game. Now, I can have multiple titles in a series, but I'm only going to do about one a game. And I'm going to start with the one that made me want to do this video in the first place, and that was Witcher 2. Great game, by the way. I recommend getting it if you ever get the chance. But I made decisions in the game because the premise of the Witcher games are that it's all about the choices you make. Now, you don't know how your choices are going to impact the story until later down the line. So, say I chose to kill this guy, and maybe down the line he would have given me something good. Or I choose to keep this person alive, and because I decided to keep them alive, they ended up going and killing more. Just that for an example, and it impacts the way you tell the story. Like Witcher 2 has 16 different endings, which is crazy. And I got an ending that I was not happy with. Now, you're not supposed to be happy with the endings, of course, but there was this one here. I could have saved my lover, who is a sorceress, or I could have saved the royal family. I chose to save the royal family, and then everything went to hell completely. Like the sorceresses, because there's a whole lodge of them, ended up getting slaughtered, truthfully. And it was bad. I felt really bad after it. I was sitting there and I told him, I'm like, Taylor, this game was a great game that I just played, but I feel absolutely terrible about the decisions I made. So we're going to also go to Witcher 1. Now, one core of a Witcher is you are supposed to be neutral. Now, the code is kind of known to be BS in a way, and it's Geralt, who's the character you play, kind of only follows his code of neutrality when he wants to. But in this game, I stuck to the idea of The Witcher, and that was the neutral path. And it resulted in me basically slaughtering everyone, which wasn't my intention, but by nature of choosing neutrality, both sides wanted to kill you. So there was that one. We're going to have one that I think was probably the worst decision I ever made in a game, but it was something that my character would do. Now, again, RPGs, I do what my character thinks they should do. Well, in this one, it was Fallout New Vegas, which is probably my favorite game of all time. It's definitely up there with one or two others. But in New Vegas, I was playing as a special forces soldier. I was an NCR commando because they're awesome. They're called the Rangers. They're the NCR Rangers. I'll have a whole video about them at some point in the future because they're just that cool. But I ended up going... So your enemies in the game are the Caesar's Legion. Well, that's the NCR's enemy, really. and I ended up attacking a camp of theirs to go try and free some slaves. The problem is, I didn't have high enough demolitions to deactivate their bomb collars. So my character, realizing that, yeah, the camp's wiped out, but more legionnaires are going to come. Our legionnaires are going to come. So I euthanized them. And I was just sitting there, like, after this happened, and I was literally sitting there for dumbfounded for probably a minute or two, just going, did I really just do that? I feel like a terrible person. It was rough. Again, great. These are all games that I love, so they're games that I've replayed or intend to replay in the future. So let's go with another decision that I made to go with Mass Effect, and that is in Mass Effect 2. Again, I should have put a spoiler at the beginning of this episode. I'll put it in the doobly-doo beneath. But one of your main enemies are the Reapers, which are basically planet-destroying monsters. And you end up basically going to one of their bases, and you fight a human Reaper. It's a combination. But you end up having a choice there, whether you want to blow the whole thing sky high or take it and study it. Now, both decisions have great impact on what happens. This is at the very end of the game. Have great impact on what happens in Mass Effect 3. And also can completely change how you align yourself with somebody. Whether or not you will forever be their enemy or you'll be their ally. So that's a decision you kind of get wrong every time, because the character is truly one of the most interesting characters in video games. Play Mass Effect. Play the Mass Effect series. You will not regret it. But that was the decision that I made that was not a good decision, because no decisions were good decisions, which is kind of good about a game. If there are no good or bad decisions, then it allows for a lot of replayability and lets you feel more into your character. And now, for the final one, this video is going a little long as is, the hardest decision that you'll ever make in a game, one that impacts the entire game going forward. Like, the choices are mutually exclusive. You can't do one or the other. And that is when the professor asks, are you a boy or a girl in Pokemon? Now, you may laugh, but hear me out on this one, because this decision is seriously big. It determines what clothes you can wear. It determines how some of the people in the game interact with you. It even determines the second most important character in the games, your rival. If you're a male, then you have one rival in the older games. If you're female, you have a different rival. So this completely changes the whole landscape of the game and makes characters have different drives and everything. So those are the decisions that I always get wrong in games. So Tony, my question for you, I know you're not a huge gamer, but my question for you, what games have you played in the future in which you felt like you made terrible decisions, but were decisions that your character would either make or no option was great? So Tony, that's my question for you, and I'll see you on Tuesday. Later, bro.